Hey, what's up, y'all? Kenny here. Wanted to take a quick spin through the tickers that I'm going to be tracking into Friday, July 31st. I'm currently sharing the chart for the ES futures. I already marked it up. We have kind of this swing high point here at 74.97, and we have, kind of the previous days low, which is further down. So we're operating in the upper part of the swing area. So we're currently at premium in the premium zone for this particular kind of work that we're looking at for today. And it is going to be very interesting to see how we navigate this going into tomorrow. But my swing high point is at 74.97. The low from today, which was Thursday, July the 30th, was around this area right here, roughly 73.99. And so we saw a large impulse up. I anticipate maybe some consolidation heading into tomorrow, which is Friday. But we'll observe. We'll allow the chart to do what it does. I figured out my high time frame, high volume areas on the 4 hour chart. I have them marked here using these gray rectangles to show where the consolidation on the higher time frame takes place. And so right now we're in between a lower consolidation and an upper consolidation. I typically like to take, an interest in a level once it gets to either the edge of the previous zone or once we get up here to this zone. So I'll be observing. Won't have any action going into uh, tomorrow until we have a play either to the upside or to the downside. So that's typically what I'm looking for from a trading perspective. And I am looking to ensure that we have an area of interest that makes sense and that will allow me to ultimately manage my risk. So that's that for ES futures. Let's take a look at let's take a look at the Qs from an options perspective. So I'll take you kind of quickly through how I evaluate, mark up my charts, and so on and so forth. So I go to look at the high time frame on the 4 hour chart. I typically am looking for opportunities over the using the data over the past couple of weeks. And so right here, let's go all the way back to like the start of July. This is my visible range volume profile that I use to kind of mark out my high volume areas. And so I will use this to kind of mark out those zones based off of where we see intense or a lot of volume being traded. I want to make sure I know where that those areas are because those are high areas of interest because that's typically where institutional trading took place. And so I have this zone marked up. I have this zone marked up, but the action is actually in this area right here. So let me go ahead and continue to mark these zones. So I'll mark this zone right here based off of what we see here and we'll mark one to the bottom of this area. So we'll do this. Once again, these are high volume areas on the 4 hour chart. It allows me to see where institutions were actively engaged because they have the ability to trade large transactions. And so we want to be aware of where they may be defending their positions and all of that fun stuff. So I am doing the same for another node. So this gives me some zones to look at to the upside and to the downside. Price is currently inside of this zone. So tomorrow when the market opens, I'll be looking for either a move to the upside of this zone or to the downside of this zone. And I'm looking to get engaged in the market when we get to one of the edges. So I usually trade the edges. Those become my areas of interest. Those become high um, levels of interest from a volume perspective, and so they can provide support and resistance as we are looking into evaluating positions. I have other things that I do, like I will add kind of the swing high or the swing low. This is the most recent swing low, and the most recent swing high will find us. Let me go ahead and just copy this one. And so that swing high will allow us to understand where targets may be. to the upside, to the downside from a resting liquidity standpoint. And so we are going to keep those in the view for potential areas of interest as well, or targets, as we are looking to get engaged in the various opportunities for this particular level. So I'm looking at these as potential resistance support levels based off of volume that has been transacted. When we get up there, we look for a response. What's going to happen? Does it accept up in this area? Does it reject? Does it break out? And then we'll be looking for a retest before getting engaged and looking for price to travel to the next high time frame, high volume area, which would be this zone right here, or vice versa to the downside. So that's typically what I do each and every day. I use some additional, components to help uh, fine tune my entries and so on and so forth. But this is pretty much the high level structure that you can look at to get engaged in the market. Let's take a look at SPY. I think this is SPY. So we'll erase these drawings and we'll do it again. This is the simple way that I use to identify potential support resistance zones, not levels, because I don't believe price operates according to singular lines. I like to look at zones. And so we will look at that. But my zones are based off of volume. I use volume because that lets me know where people are actually engaged in the market. And so there's some substance to the simple levels that are being evaluated. And so that's kind of the purpose behind these particular zones. And I use these because they are volume driven. I will also incorporate the anchored VWAP as a part of this, but I don't want to extend the time in taking a look at that, but I will add those as a part of my ability to try to gain some confluence. So these are the zones that I'm looking at. And so once again, I drop down, I trade on the 15-minute time frame. I look for price to get to one of the edges, and I look to see how price responds when it gets to those particular areas. So right here we have our 4 hour zones built. I would typically drop down to the 15-minute. And so when we get into tomorrow's market, I'll be looking at where we start. My areas of interest will be around this area, which is 742.50. To the downside, it'll be 740.76. And we'll be looking to see how price responds when it gets to those zones. We either get here and we'll bounce and reverse back up, get up the top, we'll bounce and come back down, or we'll break out to the upside or to the downside. And then I'll be looking for a retest and for the buyers or aggressive sellers to hold, serve, and to then take a position or entry targeting the next zone. So that's typically what I do, trying to keep it very simple. Let's take a look at Microsoft. So this is what we're looking at on Microsoft. Go to the 4 hour visible range volume profile. Allows me to see what's happening. We see a significant gap up um, from Wednesday to Thursday. We see a significant gap up, and that's because of earnings. Looks like, yeah, earnings took place, and so chart this out. We'll add this zone right here to the downside, but all the action is up here. So the question of the day is, are we going to be able to hold? Is there enough interest in Microsoft to hold here, or will we see a retracement to try to fill in this gap in between? Typically, not guaranteed, but typically gaps get filled in at some point. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, it doesn't have to be next week. But those are some of the things that you kind of look for to see if there is any weakness here and if there's an attempt to go back and see if there are any potential buyers or sellers in these areas right here. So that's kind of what we're looking at to try to complete the auction. I'm an auction market theory guy. I believe that the market likes to move efficiently. It likes to go back and retest areas where the auction didn't get a chance to take place. And so this would fall into that category. So that's what we're looking here on Microsoft. There's some levels like my swing high and swing low levels, or the previous day high, previous day low levels. And so I want to take a look at drawing one here. Let's draw this one here. And these would be, kind of the swing high, swing low points, or the previous high, previous day high, previous day low areas to look at potential activity taking place. So this is what I'll be looking at going into tomorrow for Microsoft. All of these, of course, I'll be looking for to take positions via options, and that's kind of the role for these stocks that I trade. Otherwise, my primary vehicle of trading is going to be ES futures, and that's what I use to generate recurring trading revenue, and I like it. So here we go with Apple 4-hour chart. We'll see where our strong volume levels are. Strong volume area there. We have one to the downside. You might also see on my chart where I have the weekly volume profile plotted out. It allows me to see what's taking place on a weekly basis from week to week. If I'm taking options, I'm looking to also swing those options and hold them for multiple days. So I like to see what happens from a weekly perspective related to the volume profile. And so I'm looking to see where the value area held out. So right here in this blue and yellow, we saw it drop down last week, and then for this week we're up. So we saw the value area move from here to down here, and now we're up here. So that kind of puts us in a bullish mindset based off of the trajectory of where value is going, but that's not guaranteed. Just something to keep in mind as I'm evaluating positions and looking to try to tell the story of the market. Once again, this is not financial advice, but I'm just sharing how I view the markets each and every day, and look forward to being able to engage when I see price hit my levels or areas of interest. So this is Apple. I'll do the same for, and I'm not including all of the components. I'm just giving you the zones so that you can see kind of how I approach this each and every day on an option from an options perspective. So we have this zone right here. And then also from a future standpoint, I do the same thing on the futures chart. I'm looking to find where the volume was traded. I want to know where the volume is traded. Volume lets you know where institutional participants were engaged in the market, where they were looking to get active. And when you see like these peaks and the valleys, these valleys are where there wasn't a lot of interest, these peaks, and these are verifiable transactions, right? So I use this on TradingView, but I also have Bookmap that allows me to see data as well. And you can see that this is the area of pricing where a lot of volume was traded, and so on and so forth. So we have this kind of this valley right here, and we would anticipate when we get here, there's not a lot of interest based off of what we've seen, but we may go back up and try to. It looks like, well, we did refill that gap, so we'll observe price and see which direction the market wants to take it. So that's Google. I'll do the same for Amazon. Clear the charts. Prices here. We see that this is an area of interest for Amazon. We'll do the same to the upside. I like to have targets to the upside and to the downside. And so we'll do this, and we'll do one to the downside just in case price heads lower. And so this is the zone where we saw an increase in volume. And so once again, I'll zoom in because I do those on the 4-hour chart. But once we get to the 15-minute chart, you can see how it all plays together. We can see where price ended up today on Apple was 235.99. And so we'll be looking to see what happens. Once again, I don't take positions in the middle of no man's land. I like to wait until we get to the edge of a high volume area to the downside or to the upside. And then that becomes my area of interest. And I like to see how price responds at those levels. So that's that. And then, like I mentioned before, I will add, I don't think I did it for the last one. Here's the upside area that I like to make sure I chart. And then to the downside. This will be the previous day low for the downside. So I want to mark that. And then I can also do some other swing low markings as well, but I won't do that for the sake of time on this video. And then I'll do the same for NVIDIA, Palantir, and AMDs. But I'm not going to hold you up, but I just wanted to show you how I mark up these charts. So going into this evening, if I decide to get engaged in the Asia session for the futures, ES futures, this is where I'll be looking at. I am going to also apply the daily volume profile so I can see what's happening from a price action standpoint. But this is what took place during the main session. And I will be looking to tell the story of what happens as we move into as we move into as we're entering into this overnight session. So we're approaching Asia, and this will be what I'm looking for and observing on the ES charts. So I'll be looking for something to occur here because this is a previous day high. I'll be looking to see if there's some kind of reaction here. If not, the next level to the upside would be here where the high volume area has been identified. I'll be looking for an area, a reaction at that particular area, or if price decides to come down here. Once again, I don't trade chop. I'm not a good two-sided trader. I'll do them when I see clean sweeps of key levels, whether it's the value area high or value area low. But my bread and butter is really trying to remain patient so that I can get the move that will allow me to traverse to the upside or to the downside outside of the value area, because typically in here there's a lot of noise and I mean, two-sided trading. So you look to see a lot of moving up and down inside of this area, but once we get outside, we'll be looking to move up to the next zone or to the lower zone, depending on the price action at the time. So that's it. That's what I do. This is a chart, kind of evaluation or chart and chill with KP as we are actively reviewing trades here in the evening session heading into July 31st, which will be the next New York session. So take care and we'll talk soon. All right. Peace.